Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friends Talk Money. I'm Pam Krueger, co-host of Money Track on public television and founder of wealthramp.com.
I'm Richard Eisenberg, a personal finance writer and editor, and formerly the editor of the Money and Work channels for the PBS site for people over 50, nextavenue.org.
And I'm Terry Savage, nationally syndicated personal finance columnist and the author of The Savage Truth on Money.
We're three friends who like to talk money and all the issues that come with it.
On this podcast, we're trying to help you understand your personal finances
to get you and your retirement on the right path for true financial peace of mind.
Hi, I'm Terry Savage here with my friends Pam Krueger and Richard Eisenberg for this latest edition of our podcast, Friends Talk Money. And this is a very special edition. So plan to stick with us. We are today talking about Social Security. And we are going to be joined, as you see on your screen, by the foremost expert on Social Security, famed economist Lawrence Kotlikoff. He created the website and software I always mention. It's www.maxmysocialsecurity.com. He's the author of a multiple edition book called Get What's Yours, Secrets to Maxing Your Social Security. And if you ever thought Social Security was, okay, I got to the full retirement age, send me a check and that's all there is to it, you're about to find out there's a lot more to it, and that some of the decisions you make could result in hundreds of thousands of dollars more in benefits that you've earned if only you take your Social Security, or if you're married, combining with your spouse in the correct way, or even if you're divorced and were married for 10 years and might qualify on an ex's life. So there are a lot of details. First, let me just start with a couple of words about Social Security itself. It's the cornerstone of everyone's retirement, but we know that it's not just an optional part for many people. 36% of beneficiaries get 90% of their retirement income from Social Security. A third of retirees basically are living on Social Security. It's not that much money. 2/3 of retirees get more than half of their income from Social Security. That's why it's so important to make the right claiming decisions, the decisions you make at the beginning. And one other thing about Social Security, unlike the pension you might get from a job, Social Security, the payment you get, is indexed to the cost of living. It's called the COLA, a cost of living adjustment that's made in your check every January. Now, for a while, we didn't have any inflation. It was like less than 2%, so it didn't seem to matter. But as we record this in late September, they're talking about the cost of living adjustment for 2023 being something like 8.7%. That won't be definitively known for a little while, but that's really important. So we'll talk about why it's so important to wait as long as you can to even take your Social Security check, maybe using up other retirement money first, because you higher your base, the higher of your cost of living adjustment. And if we have inflation, that could be a big issue. Okay, I can see all your eyes glazing over here. Social Security, what's it really about? But this is important stuff. And we're going to give you the real scoop on how to make the right decisions. So before we start, Pam, you're the baby. You haven't started taking Social Security. You're not even close, but it's just preparing for this podcast made you think a little differently about it?
Yeah, in looking at it, I'm thinking about it all the time, way ahead of time. I've given it a lot of thought. And, when we start talking about taking Social Security before my full retirement age, or I think about that, which I think in my case is like 67, I've always asked myself, why not start those benefits and start enjoying them sooner? But, for me, I'm going to plan to work. And so as long as I can, God willing, my plan is to keep working, keep earning, keep building. And then if something changes and something I can't control were to happen, a medical condition that suddenly comes up, then I would think about it. So that's me. But there are so many, as you know, so many permutations and so many combinations and so many things that happen in life that then make you really have to stop and evaluate the whole world of Social Security strategies around how to take it, when to take it. And then it feels like a box that you keep opening and then you keep opening it further and it never ends.
But that's why we have Larry here. But before we get turned to you, Larry, Richard, you just made a big change in your career. So did you just start taking Social Security? Or are you waiting?
I have not started taking Social Security. I am 66. I will reach my full retirement age in 4 months in November. Well, I should say in November, it'll be 66 in 4 months. And I could have started taking it at 62. I did not. I am planning to take it probably next year, but we'll talk about it. I'll see what Larry has to say.
You might change your mind.
Yeah, you never can tell. I'm betting you're going to wait. But I want to say one thing before we get into the specifics. The first thing overhanging Social Security, I know when people call into radio shows is, yeah, but I want to take it right away because it might not be there for me. And I understand the legitimacy of that worry given the federal budget, but we're going to start this show with the belief, the premise that this huge generation of baby boomers still coming through retirement has got incredible political power. And that although they may change the taxation of incomes for younger people, raising the wage cap, they may even tax Social Security benefits differently for those who have higher incomes in addition to Social Security. They will not do anything about taking Social Security away. This is a premise on which we make all these decisions. So let's deal with the decisions in front of us as if this was going to be the plan. And if worse comes to worse, the government will print the money, which it's done for every other thing in this pandemic. I don't think they're going to stop. I mean, they've taken care of children. They've taken care of student loans. They'll take care of the retirees or we'll vote them out. So with that as a premise, Larry, is that a good way to start? Larry Kotlikoff, professor of economics at Boston University. Oh, I didn't mention your newest book, Money Magic. We actually mentioned that in a show that we talked about it. Best money book of the year, without doubt. And it's, by the way, up for a big award for that. Money Magic by Larry Kotlikoff. And a lot of your book, not all of it by any means, talks about Social Security. So are we right to suspect that it will be there for us, those with gray hairs, or you can't find mine, I hope?
Well, first of all, it's lovely to be with all of you. You're all my good buddies. I think it's absolutely right to assume that current retirees and near-term retirees are going to get what they've been paid, what they've been promised with the COLAs. I don't see any politician proposing cutting any retiree. These are the people who on election day have nothing better to do than to go vote. So politicians are just not going to touch that third rail. So yeah, let's assume that the benefits are there for sure. And then maybe we could just kind of talk about Richard for a second here, who
Sure. When to claim was my first topic. When to claim. Give him some advice.
Okay. So Richard, you should beg, borrow, steal, even borrow from me, wait till 70 to collect, because here's the deal. You might be saying to yourself, well, if I pass away before, let's say, early, then I'm going to have lost the money. But when you pass away, you immediately get transported to heaven, where you don't need any money because they're giving you everything you want. You could order as much money up as you want in heaven if you think about it. It's really in the situation where you don't pass away, where you keep living and living and living to 100, let's say. Maybe that's your maximum age of life. And so what economics says is you have to look at the financially catastrophic longevity outcome, which is you live to your maximum age of life, and plan for that. So Social Security, since it is paid out as an annuity, as a stream that keeps continuing until you die, that's insurance against you living longer and longer. And so it's longevity insurance, and it's inflation index, as Terry was saying. So it's the only way that we Americans can get longevity insurance that's inflation protected, period. Wall Street does not market it anymore, even at their high fees. So this is essential to have as a kind of a basis. So your benefit, if you wait from 67 or 66 or so till 70, is going to start out about 26, 27% higher adjusted for inflation. So for the rest of your life, you're going to be getting a check every month, 27% higher. Now you might say, well, I have to give up 3 years of benefits. But if you do the calculation, the way economists would do it, if we value in the present value that stream from 70 to 100, right up to 100, because you have to can't consider it because it's got value. It's got this insurance value, but also the income's there. So it's reducing your risk as well as giving you money in that state. And that's your planning horizon up to 100. And the value of waiting and collecting a higher number is far bigger in present value than the value of the lost benefits. Go for it.
Well, I know that's the way economists think and talk, and I understand that, but I'm thinking like a human. And, and as a human, as Terry said, I've left my full-time job, so I'm now working part-time as a writer, but I don't have a lot of income coming in. And I like the idea of knowing that I'm going to be getting a guaranteed monthly payment every month. And I realize it will be bigger if I wait, but I like the idea of having it. And I'm thinking that I'm willing to sacrifice the extra money so that I know I have money coming in every month. So what's wrong with that thinking?
Well, you may have a 401k plan. You could take money out of that and right now today and put it into inflation index bonds and produce a stream of income over the next 3 years to bide you over. You could ask your siblings to make a loan to you if you needed that. You could downsize your home or take out a bigger mortgage. Even, you take a mortgage with a floating rate, thinking that you'll repay it with the proceeds from Social Security. This is really a pure financial arbitrage. This is like finding gold on the street.
Well, let's talk about it in terms of numbers. For every year, if you've taught me well, Larry, and I think you have, that's where I get all my education. For every year you wait after your full retirement age, it's equivalent to an 8% increase in your base check. Now, so starting today with the stock market, wherever it is, and it's, up and down and so forth. And over the long run, I know over 20-year periods, the average historic return is 10.1% with dividends reinvested. I know those numbers, but I mean, what are the odds that you would beat that return? So why wouldn't you take money out of your IRA or 401k when you know you've got a guaranteed winner, first of all, of 8% additional in your check every year, and number two, that higher base means if there are future inflation adjustments, your adjustment will be larger. I mean, this is what I'm saying to people. I get all your arguments, and Larry sounds so economic, like with the present value of the VUF. You want that check to pay the expenses, and you're not remortgaging your house or borrowing from your brother. But wouldn't you use other money that you have in savings first, knowing that you're getting a guaranteed 8% every year you wait, just for 3 years? It doesn't go up till you're 75. You must start taking at 70. But isn't that the smart decision?
Let me just say, it is the smart decision because adjusted for risk, we see the stock market's extremely risky. Adjusted for risk, the return on the stocks are basically zero. If you can read that right off the inflation index, treasury bill rates that are produced every day. I mean, the market is saying that the stock market is so risky that even though it's yielding 9-10% on average, real, it's so risky that people are willing to forgo buying stocks and buying tips that are yielding essentially nothing. Now, Social Security's got a return. As you said, if you wait, it's going to be 8% higher each year that you wait from that starting point on. Now, that's not a completely comparable interest rate against zero, because if you die, let's say after a couple of years of taking Social Security, your heirs are not going to get anything. So if you subtract off the mortality factor, the real return on Social Security that's comparable to the zero is probably about 4 or 5%. So that's why I'm saying this is a pure arbitrage opportunity. Here's one investment that's yielding nothing, and here's another investment yielding 4%. Which one do you want to take? With no risk.
And you could live to 100.
And it's not just no risk, Pam, it's really risk reduction. It's really being able to, so we can't play the odds because we're not insurance companies. We're not in the Groundhog Day movie where we're going to be reborn and get to die at different dates. We're going to just die once, and it could be the worst possible time, which is 100. And we don't want to think about that because we think it's going to jinx us and we're going to die tomorrow if we think about living to 100. But financially speaking, we have to. It's a catastrophic case. So let me put it this way, Richard. I want you to kind of think about your inner future self, not your inner current self, and realize that you're the fiduciary for your future self. And if you really get tempted to do this, call me. We are going to sit down. I'm going to go to wherever you are and spend a day persuading you not to.
Okay, I'll let you know.
We'll figure
All
out
right.
something.
Now, I want, on this subject, staying on this, when you first claim, someone brought this up, I called you, I made you repeat it 3 times, Larry, and I'm gonna make you repeat it again. So let's just take this year. Suppose your choice is this year, okay? So suppose Larry convinced you to wait 3 more years till you're 70, because we told you that nominally you're gonna get an 8% larger check. However, let's just suppose that in a month or so, they say, gosh, inflation's been horrible, and we're going to increase Social Security checks by 8.7% in January. And then you would say to me, well, see, I should take it right now, because what's 8% of the every year for the delaying compared to the 8.7% I would get by taking it in January. And Larry, your answer is and was, you have to say this again, it's hard to believe. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not quite getting the question. Give me the question one more time.
Well, you told me that you get both the cost of living, the 8% bump,
Yeah.
and the COLA as well. Did you not tell me that?
You're going to get, so here's the 2 things. Here's the 2 bumps. One is that if you're earning more money, you can be raising your earnings record, and that can bump up there's something called the recalculation of benefits that occurs every year. So even if I'm 99 contributing to Social Security, contributing on the job to Social Security, I can find that my Social Security benefit, apart from any COLA, is higher next year because I've raised my earnings record. And in this setting where we have a lot of inflation, since what they're doing is entering your earnings after age 60 just nominally, just the actual dollar amounts, and then they're comparing those with the indexed amounts up from your earlier years up to age 60. So you got the nominal amounts that are impacted by inflation, by wage increases due to inflation being compared. So let me just give you a clear idea. Suppose that inflation was just astronomical and that Richard was, working part-time, was making $1 billion this year because of inflation, not because of anything. Yeah. So they would add that into your earnings record, and gee, it would wipe out in terms of your benefit, what else you earn wouldn't matter. And
The early years.
the early years wouldn't matter, all the years before. So your real benefit would end up being dramatically higher because they would be treating you as if you had earned basically.
But he's earning less.
Well,
So you're earning less.
Reality is, for me and a lot of people who are working in retirement, the amount of earnings that we're receiving is much less than what we were earning with a full-time job. So Social Security is not going to even care really much about what I'm earning this year because it's not going to be part of my higher earning years.
You're probably not going to get the double bump. You'll get the single bump, which is the Social Security COLA, not the double bump.
But wait, he still gets the COLA and the 8% for waiting a year?
Oh, you're talking about the delayed retirement. Yes, I'm sorry. Now I recall what we're talking about. So there's a triple bump here. There's 3 bumps.
Yeah, it's the waiting. You get paid to wait, no matter
Yeah,
what.
Plus.
you get paid to wait. That's the delayed retirement credit. And that's bump 1. Then there's the COLA bump 2, and then there's the recomputation of benefits, which is bump 3. So all 3 bumps you could experience all 3, but you're going to experience 2 out of the 3.
2 out of the 3.
You mean, in other words, I want to make this very clear because this is very confusing. When in January, when he could be getting 8.7% more, but wait a year and get 8% more in his base next year in 2024, if he took it at 60, whatever that was, 8 or 9, he could get the 8.7% COLA and the 8% bump. Is that what you said to me?
Yeah, it's like 16.7. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're gonna get paid to wait, no matter what. And then there's people who, obviously, Richard, you're in a position, I hope I'm in a position, Terry, you all are in a position where it's a given that you have this choice. And then there's a lot of people out there, obviously, who are taking it much
Oh,
sooner because they have.
Okay, but before we get there, let's just be clear on the math. You will get the 8.7% COLA, if that's what it is, and the 8% bonus for waiting a year. So you're going to get more like 16.7% increase in your check. So you don't lose out on the COLA
Right.
that was huge.
But everybody's going to get that 8.7% COLA, even if they're not receiving their benefits yet. It's built in to the calculation. So no matter when I start taking, whether it's this year, next year, or age 70, I'm going to get a check that's 8.7% more than it would have been a year ago.
Yeah, well, let me say it this way, Richard, that the real increase, the increase measured in hot dogs, so it really is the 8%, is the delayed retirement credit, which is 8% a year. So and this is really, I think, meaningful, and I'd be happy to run you through our software and figure out how meaningful.
Max,
Well,
I'll do it.
helps
Break
me
for
a lot.
commercial, maximizemysocialsecurity.com, costs $40. And here's where it comes in. I want to move on to part 2 of our discussion. You think this was complicated? Should Richard take it now, or should he use his IRA for 3 years and wait? He'll get the COLAs built in and he'll get 8% a year. I mean, we had a very complicated discussion about what I think should be very simple. Now, let's talk about the multitude, and we can't talk about all of them, of complex situations. My husband is older. He wants to wait till 70 to take his. I'm only 63. I'm the wife. Should I take it now? Should I wait? Should I take it now? And then could I get half of his benefit? How does that work? And on and on and on. There's some basics. You were married for 10 years, even if you're divorced. If you haven't remarried, you can claim Social Security on your ex-spouse's record. And if it's more than your old record, that's what you'll get. But when you have couples that are still married and they have questions like, what'll give us the most money now? And what will give us her the most money? Presumably women live longer, so says the man. I have a bigger benefit, but I'm likely by actuarial to die sooner. What will give her? What's the right strategy for claiming? Talk to us just basically, if you could, Larry, about the kinds of issues and how you resolve those.
So the higher earner, I don't know, Richard, your marital status, but the higher earner in a married couple has an extra incentive to wait till 70, because if their spouse has been the lower earner, well, that's my assumption, they're going to be able to basically take over the higher earner's check when the higher earner passes away. And that's the case with widow's benefits. It's not the case with spousal benefits. Spousal benefits are based on your full retirement age benefit, whereas widow benefits are based on the actual benefit that the decedent was receiving at the time they died. So you can dramatically increase let me give you just a really quick example. I was at a dinner party with a metaphysician, 68. He was dying of pancreatic cancer, he told me, within like 5 minutes of meeting him. He knew I knew he had written written this book about Social Security. He said, I went a month ago to Social Security. They said, well, you're dying of pancreatic cancer. You better sign up and take your benefits immediately. I signed up and took my benefits immediately. Did I do the right thing? I said, no, you did the wrong thing. First, I asked about his wife's earnings history. He said she never worked because she took care of the kids. I said, no, you did the wrong thing. You need to go back to Social Security, withdraw your benefit application, because by waiting for 2 more years, you will increase the widow's benefit for your wife by 16% in real terms, inflation adjusted, for the rest of her life. And that's far more important to you as a group, as a couple, than getting your benefits for 2 years and her having a permanently lower benefit. So he actually did that. So that's a real world case. But if you're a widow, it gets even more complicated. If you're a widow and you have an earnings history, then you have to decide whether to take your retirement benefit first or your widow's benefit first. And only really great software can figure this out. Social Security is in the practice of having you sign up for both things, and that can easily screw you out of a couple $100,000 in present value. So you never want to ask Social Security to do any questions. You never want them to give you any advice. What you want to do is know ahead of time exactly what to tell them to do and make sure they do it.
That's
And-
really, really, really important, because so many people, there's so many strategies and so many permutations. It's mind boggling. And yet that's where people think they're supposed to go to get the
I mean,
correct information.
I wrote this book with Paul Solomon of PBS NewsHour and Phil Muller, who's a terrific personal finance columnist, Get What's Yours, The Secrets to Maxing Out Your Social Security. And to our astonishment, it's a book that's we try to make it humorous, but it's basically 300 pages about Social Security rules. And it became an overnight national bestseller, New York Times bestseller. How can that be exciting to people? And then I've been writing an Ask Larry column, answering questions for really probably about 10 years now. And the questions keep rolling in. People, I think, find this similar to, Wordle or some puzzle game, that they find it interesting to figure out what's best, at least from, I can't explain why there's such, strong interest, except that, people are focused on it, even if they've already figured out what they're going to do for themselves.
And I think one reason is that, and I've seen survey after survey that shows that the vast majority of the public is confused about the rules of Social Security. They don't understand them. They don't know what they are. And so they need guidance. They need some help because it's not clear and it's not all that easy to get that information. So I can see why people would want to read the book.
Yeah.
But what's really astounding, you helped me with a column. It's posted at terrysavage.com just a few weeks ago. A woman, a widow, went to Social Security and they said, no, you just get your own. You don't get, that won't be any benefit to you. No, just that's it. And she wrote me and said, I don't think that's right. And I went, I don't think that's right. Let me bring in Larry. And then you advised her, went through the software and told her to go back to Social Security. And they said, oh yeah, we made a slight mistake. It's this. And then she went back to you. I followed the emails and you said, no, tell her to look through what's that big book, the POA or the something.
POMS, Program Operating Manual System.
Okay. And
Ooh.
anyway, she wound up getting the present value, $286,000, that if she hadn't questioned it and had accepted the word of Social Security, the person on the phone, she would have not gotten over her presumed lifetime just till age 90, not even to 100, to make a realistic case. So Larry, you went on a rant about Social Security, not mean about the people that work there, but about believing them. Please give our
Gosh.
podcasters some thought on that.
I mean, these people put you at great danger of basically ripping you off, because I don't think the workers themselves are in generally ill intention, but they do kind of have an attitude about, we know it and you don't, and therefore just listen to what we say. So in this case, they made like 3 mistakes in a row in talking to this lady, eventuated in this huge amount of money. In other cases, they're making terrible mistakes that they give benefits to people that might be the wrong amount, and then I'll give you a case. There's a lady who was became disabled, and actual case, and she decided to try and write a child's book, and it became a bestseller to her surprise. She'd never written anything in her life, and so she started getting some royalty income, and she's also getting disability checks from Social Security, and she contacts Social Security every year, year after year. Can I receive disability benefits given that I'm getting these royalty checks? And they said, yeah, it's royalty and it's not earned income, so no problem, keep collecting it.
Oh,
So 10 years later, the royalty money has gone away. She's back at a very low level of income, and they send her a bill for $300,000. And I read all the documents from the court case that she sent me. So this is not a made-up story. $300,000 bill, disabled lady. And then she says, "What can I do to Social Security?" And they say, "Well, you can appeal it on the basis of need, that you're destitute." And so the judge asked for all her documents, including all her checking account statements and her cable plan. And the judge looks at the cable plan, and in his write-up, in denying her any relief in making her pay the $300,000, he claims that she has a very expensive cable plan, $200 a month, and therefore she doesn't need any relief, any help from Social Security. This is an honest to God decision by
wow.
the judge. I read it in black and white. I didn't think I wrote about it. I think it's on my website somewhere. And I don't know exactly where things ended up in terms of whether she must have appealed it again. But this is the kind of thing that's happening all the time to lots and lots of people. They're getting these clawbacks out of the blue. And
Because really they were misinformed in the first place.
yeah,
And
you're
by the way, I want to give one little piece of advice, because about the only thing I know in this that I can add to is, don't get your Social Security information or advice or any guidance on TikTok, because believe it or not, TikTok is offering a lot of Social Security scenarios.
Larry, you have to make a TikTok video. There's an opportunity.
I think I'll
Stay away
go.
from TikTok.
I do have a TikTok account, so I'm going to go back on there and start talking about it. But the basic rule of Social Security is, if they make a mistake, it's your mistake. And Social Security's Inspector General, just to go back to the widows case, their Inspector General did a study in 2019 based on a whistleblower's complaint that looked at 13,000 widows and found that the Social Security had registered them for both their retirement benefit and their widow's benefit at the same time, and collectively cost them $130 million. And you can find this on, it's in my columns, but also you can just search online. The Inspector General said to Social Security, "You need to fix this." And they've done nothing so far. Now, I'm pushing a very close friend of mine who's very high up in the administration to get this resolved. And I hope she will fix it. She has the power to do it, but she had no idea about it.
This is truly eye-opening. I mean, I knew it was off, but I didn't have any idea to the magnitude. And if we have time, and I'm not sure that we will, I do have a question that I think on the merit.
Pam, that's a good time. I mean, have we covered that, Larry? Well, let me ask Larry this. So as we get, here's the three things I think we sort of covered. Number one, that you really do want to wait. And I know, Richard, I'm going to bug you on our next podcast or a year from now, how you figured it out, because waiting really makes sense. Assuming Pam said you have the choice. Look, we know that the choice of taking your IRA first or your Social Security, as I pointed out, there are a lot of people that just rely on Social Security. You think this is easy? I have a younger brother who wanted to retire. This is a couple of years ago. I could not convince my own brother not to take benefits at 62. So I don't know if we'll change anybody's mind out there, but it was surely a
Yeah, at least you're giving the reasons why. Yeah.
Exactly. But some people just, I want the check, I want the money. So number one is when to start. Number two is how complex it is to make decisions that involve two people in a marriage and how to take Social Security. That's maximizemysocialsecurity.com. Costs $40. And believe me, this one woman, it saved her $296,000 and $86,000 in benefits over a lifetime. And number three is, so far we've learned, don't count on those people with Social Security having the right answer. And if their answer is wrong, it could be very costly to you, which is why you want to do this software. You think I was selling your software, Larry, but I mean, the cost benefit relationship of saying, no, this is how we're going to do it, as opposed to relying on the person on the phone, is huge. So you ought to do that. Before I get to your questions, which we have plenty of time for, Larry, is there anything aside from those 3 key points that you really need to tell
I
us?
just say one other thing to Richard, which is connecting. I mean, people are interested in taking their money early because they think they're going to die early. And in general, they're not going to live to their maximum age of life. And I've been talking to Richard today and others about the maximum age of life. And surely people are going to say, this is a crazy person. This is a crazy economist. Just he's living in a different world, academic ivory tower. And so what does economics say to do? It says, look, make your planning horizon your maximum age of life. But if you're not super risk averse, what you should do is spend more when you're younger and plan to spend less and less and less as you continue to live. So it's not this crazy idea that you should leave tons of money on the table. That's not what economics says to do. It says you got to plan to 100 because you may make it that long, but then so you want to maximize your resources given your longevity, your potential length of life, but then you want to figure out your spending path so that you take calculated risks on not living that long. And so you get the best of both worlds.
Well,
When
I'm
you're old, you
just-
run out of, you don't notice it.
Yeah.
Okay, Pam, you had a question.
getting the gist. Yeah. Okay. So there's so many scenarios, especially when it comes to couples. And I think that that's, the huge takeaway today is you can't just take one piece of information that you get from one source. You really need to be able to go to a resource like yours, Larry, and really work it out and come to your own decision. But one thing that I am perplexed about with survivor benefits is, let's say that I'm married and I am not yet at full retirement age, but I did take my benefits early. And then say that my husband's 15 years older and he passes away. Now, if I was already getting my own Social Security check, because I get this question a lot from people, if I'm already getting my check, how does the surviving spouse benefit the most? Is it possible to be able to switch to the husband's benefit if that turns out to be the higher of the two?
It's going to depend on the spouse's age. If the spouse is above the surviving spouse above full retirement age, and the husband's check was higher than, let's say, the wife's check, she's the survivor, she should probably go immediately, because it's not going to be, her widow's benefit will not be increased by waiting. If she's, let's say, 63, he dies, she has an option. She could, if she waits till if his check, let's say his check is higher than her check, then if she waits till full retirement age, it will certainly be higher than if she takes it right away. So there's an incentive to wait. Now, here's a key thing. If he took his retirement benefit, he dies, having taken his retirement benefit. If he took it before his full retirement age, then we have a different formula for her incentive to wait. So it could be she's 63, and the best thing to do is to wait, but not to wait till full retirement age if he took his benefit early. Maybe it's the best thing to wait is till 65 rather than to 67. If he took his retirement benefit after his full retirement age, I see your eyes glazing over. He should probably wait till full retirement age to get the highest number. So this becomes humanly impossible to calculate without the exact data. And it is available, and our software does handle every single case imaginable. We've been at this for 29 years.
So I can throw any what if scenario into this and expect to get a strategy back that will tell me what I can do within the rules that are current.
The program looks at every conceivable claiming strategy and figures out the one with the highest value, present value. I mean, we found our software is so accurate that we found that Social Security was making a mistake in its code with respect to child and care spousal benefits about a year ago. And we contacted them and they fixed their code. It was a very esoteric mistake, issue, but they fixed it. That's, I think that's
I'm not surprised at that. It's just that it makes us realize as consumers, as investors, as, people as we age, it just makes us realize that we can't just take a standard answer, and you've really got to be able to strategize, but you have to go to the right source in order to do that.
That's why I wanted to talk about. I wanted to mention one thing, and then I do have two questions for Larry. One thing I wanted to mention was, in addition to software like Larry's, which can be very helpful for people, there are also advisors, human advisors now, who are specialists in Social Security, who've gotten certification and know a great deal. And I think in many cases, much more than people who work at Social Security. So I would say if you really want to sit down with somebody, you may want to consider doing that, but the person probably should not be somebody who works at Social Security. It should be somebody who understands Social Security very well. But
And independent and fiduciary and fee only, not working as a sales rep anywhere too.
Yeah.
I'd ask them what software they're using, because no human being, for example, cannot figure out for Pam, the case you gave me, I can't figure out in my own brain what's the right thing to do for that lady without knowing the numbers, and probably without running it through our software.
God, because that's a question that I actually get that question like once a month.
I always send them on TV. I just say to radio, just go maximize my socialsecurity.com. If it costs you $40, if I make a mistake, it's going to cost you a fortune. Go ahead. What's your other question?
I've got two questions, Larry, that I think a lot of people in our audience might have. One is, can you explain what should people know about the effect of employment earnings when you are taking Social Security, and what that's going to do to your Social Security benefits, and essentially what is the earnings test? And then the other is, what should people know about taxation of Social Security benefits? In other words, will they be able to keep all their benefits? Will half the benefits be taxed? How does that work? So can you talk about both of those?
These are two kind of complex things. So the government says that if you are taking your benefits early, between, let's say, your retirement benefit or your spousal benefit or your widow's benefit, if you're taking it before full retirement age, and you were earning more than about 20,000, you're going to lose 50 cents on the dollar until the year in which you are going to turn full retirement age, and then it's like 33 cents on the dollar rather than 50 cents on the dollar, and the threshold is a little bit higher. So here's this enormous taxation that you're kind of facing. I got furloughed under COVID. I took Social Security early at 63. I'm now being called back to a job that's going to pay me $50,000. From 20,000 to 30,000, 50,000 bucks, I'm going to lose 50% of those dollars in terms of lost Social Security benefits. Why should I remotely think about going back to work? I also have to pay income taxes and payroll taxes on that money. The reason is that when you hit full retirement age, the money you lost due to the earnings test is going to be rebated back to you in the form of a permanently higher level of Social Security benefits. Now, for like 95% of workers in this situation, they're going to be fully compensated. So they should just forget about the earnings test and not think it, and just believe that it doesn't exist. It's like the craziest thing in the world. It's a tax which the government hands you back in a form that nobody understands.
If you go back to work.
Okay, and Larry, I have a question here. Going back to Richard. Richard's getting picked on. No, because of his unretirement. And 1.5 million people have unretired, after the pandemic or since the pandemic. So, Larry, if you have gone back to work and you're not at full retirement age, and let's say that I don't need the Social Security now because I'm back at work, can I suspend it and then push it off?
You can suspend it at full retirement age. Before full retirement age, the only way you can kind of turn it off is by earning above the $20,000 ceiling level. Then you can start losing it. So losing it is actually a good thing because you're going to get it back. That's called the adjustment of the reduction factor.
You recapture it. You don't lose it.
Capture it.
Capture it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, imagine that you retired today. Tomorrow, you get called back to a very high-paying job, and you lose every single penny. You can't turn off the benefit. It's going to keep coming, and you're going to keep losing it right to full retirement age. And then you hit full retirement age, and then you suspend your benefit because you still have it turned on. You suspend it and wait till 70 to collect. it's going to be just like you never did anything except waited till 70. The benefit you get at 70 will be exactly the same. The adjustment of the reduction factor will fully compensate you for what you lost due to the earnings test, and then you'll get these delayed retirement credits. That's the first of the 2 bumps, the 3 bumps we talked about, and you'll get the same benefit as if you had never collected a penny. Now, the other question that Richard had was about taxation of Social Security benefits. This is particularly critical given inflation. The thresholds beyond which Social Security benefits are taxable are not indexed to inflation. David Stockman, who was Reagan's budget advisor, he put forth a bill to reduce retirement age immediately by 2 years, early retirement age. It was voted down in the Senate 100-0. And at the same time, he snuck into that bill a provision that there should be taxation of Social Security benefits above thresholds. First 50% of your benefits would be taxable, and then if you earned enough income, it would be 85% would be taxable. So up to 85% can be taxable. And I was at the meeting. I was working for the government at that point. Stockman has this meeting, and he's gloating by the fact that he had helped save Social Security by sneaking this in, and the other stuff was a lost leader. He put that into, he knew he was going to lose, but he got that in through the door. Nobody paid any attention. Now, Stockman felt, David Stockman is basically a good guy, and I think he's still around, and he said, this system needs money, and we have to, I'm going to make sure they have some money, more money than they would otherwise have. But the cruelty of this is that inflation is raising the taxes of middle class and now low income people. Year after year, our income taxes are going up, our taxation of Social Security benefits, because those thresholds aren't indexed. And that's one thing we should definitely have Congress do. This is not the way to save Social Security, by getting extra taxes through inflation. It's just terrible policy. So, David, I love you, and David, I think this was terrible move on your part. And I kind of said this at the time, and I was a little peanut, and he was, in terms of age, and he was, the budget director. But
so basically, if you earn enough income, when you're full retirement age, there's no penalty on your Social Security. But if you earn enough income, 50% of your benefits are added onto your ordinary income and taxed at your marginal rate. And for many people, if you earn enough income, in addition to Social Security, you're still working, you're collecting Social Security above your full retirement age or later with no penalty. You could be 70 years old, but you collect Social Security and you're still getting a great paycheck. 85% of your Social Security benefits, which were supposed to be tax-free when they started this 40 years, 50 years ago, are added on to your ordinary income and taxed at your marginal tax rate.
So yeah, so this bump up,
I know how it works.
yeah, exactly, Terry. So this bump up of 8.7% due to the COLA could put people above the thresholds, and they'll see more of their Social Security benefits taxed. So on the one hand, they're getting something decent, at least the COLA, and on the other hand, they're going to end up paying more taxes. So on balance, in real terms, they're actually worse off.
Yeah, my mother used to say, the big print gives it to you and the little print takes it away.
So here's an example. I mean, suppose you're taking Social Security and there's this inflation, but also you do a Roth conversion. All of a sudden, you could bump up your Social Security benefit taxation without even knowing it. That's where our MaxifyPlanner.com software can help people. It also optimizes on Social Security. It's because these things are too complicated for, we have all these behavioral economists out there who are saying that it's just the bad behavior. People are myopic, they're financially illiterate, they're schizophrenic, they don't care about their future self, they're not fiduciaries of their future self. They're bad, bad, bad. And I'm saying, no. Behavioral finance is kind of nonsense. What we should understand is that nobody can do these calculations. They're far too complicated.
Yeah, my mind would just
All right.
explode.
Which brings us to a point. We could be sitting here all night. I wish we had a bottle of wine and we were in the same room, we would. But for all of our listeners,
I'm in.
okay, let me just give you 3 points of contact. First of all, got to read the book Money Magic, not only about Social Security, there's a lot of that in there, but there's also about different ways to think about college in your home. And we've all recommended this book, Money Magic by Lawrence Kotlikoff, professor of economics at Boston University. Then there's maximizemysocialsecurity.com. And then Larry, I get notes from you. You have a column in Forbes, the Ask Larry, which I'm always finding fascinating. How else do people reach out to you to read your stuff?
So larrykotlikoff.substack.com. There's a, so that's, they can get my newsletters. I'm doing podcasts now. I did one with you, Terry, and I did one with Carrie Hannon, your buddy and our buddy, and Richard and Pam, you're on the list at some point soon. We'll do podcasts with you guys. So, fascinating other people like Roger Lowenstein is going to be on next week. Anyway, so there's that. And then kotlikoff.net is my main academic website. So I work on lots of topics like carbon taxation and inequality. And I'm basically just starting out, and I'm hyperactive.
You're just starting out.
Starting out. After a long and distinguished career, I predict a Nobel Prize in the realm of Social Security and this software. Just saying it. May take them a while to figure it out. Larry, thank you for joining us on Friends Talk Money. I enjoyed working with you on your podcast, and I know Pam and Richard are next. And we have a good group of people who really care about our listeners and viewers out there who want to give you advice that's not powered by trying to make money off of you, not charging for it, but enabling you to be empowered. So Pam's website at wealthramp.com connects you to fee-only fiduciary financial advisors. Richard Eisenberg. The best place to get you now these days is at Money Watch.
Market Watch.
Market Watch.
And Next Avenue. That's where I'm writing these days.
Right. Next Avenue and Market Watch. You'll see his articles, and then we'll always.
It's been incredibly enlightening. It really has. Just to be
Put
able
show
to-
notes up, by the way, at friendstalkmoney.org. So we'll put all these ways of connecting with you, Larry. Thanks all of you, and we'll hope you'll join us again next time on Friends Talk Money.
Thank you guys so much. It was so much fun.
Good to see you.
All right.
Friends Talk Money is funded in part by a grant from the Investor Protection Trust. The IPT is a nonprofit organization devoted to investor education. Since 1993, the IPT has worked with the states to provide the independent, objective investor education needed by all Americans to make informed investment decisions. Visit investorprotection.org. We also receive support from the North American Securities Administrators Association, known as NASA. It's the oldest international investor protection organization. NASA's members include state and provincial securities regulators from the U.S., Canada, and Mexico who serve on the front lines of investor protection. Recognizing that education and awareness are powerful tools in the fight against investment fraud, NASA is pleased to sponsor Friends Talk Money. Here are 3 important tips to help you protect your money from fraud. With investing, there are always risks, so be cautious of anybody telling you that a certain investment is guaranteed. You should also proceed with caution if somebody is promising very large investment returns. This is a common red flag for investment fraud. Last and most importantly, be sure you're working with a licensed or registered financial professional. You can check your advisor and make sure they're licensed by visiting brokercheck.finra.org. NASA is your partner in keeping you safe and helping you avoid investment frauds. Visit nasa.org and click on the Investor Education tab to learn more.